I wasn't supposed to see her phone that night. She left it charging in the kitchen, screen up. I walked past to grab a glass of water. That's when it lit up, just a second, maybe two. But enough. Enough to catch the name, Dylan, and a heart emoji right next to it. Dylan. My friend. My best friend for over a decade. At first, I tried to reason with it. Maybe it was something innocent. Maybe it was one of those dumb group chats she's always joking about. But when I tapped the screen, my thumb hovering like it was shaking. The phone didn't need a passcode, just Face ID. And she wasn't there. But the angle of the lamp behind me, it was enough. It unlocked. I know. I shouldn't have looked. I tell myself that, even now. But if I hadn't, I'd still be the fool smiling at the dinner table, holding her hand like she hadn't already given it away. There were texts. Hundreds of them. All under his name. Can't stop thinking about last night. You're perfect. And one that made my throat close up so tight. I wish I'd met you first. The worst part. She wrote back. I think I've always been yours, Dylan, I just didn't know it. I dropped the phone. Like it burned me. Stared at it lying on the counter like it might come alive and bite me again. Everything inside me screamed, to wake her up, to shout, to throw something. But I didn't. I just sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the wall until the sun rose. And when she came downstairs, yawning, wearing my hoodie, I looked at her like I didn't know who she was. Because I didn't. Not anymore. She smiled at me like nothing had changed. Morning, she said, brushing a kiss on my cheek. Did you sleep okay? I looked her in the eyes. And I lied. Just like she'd been lying to me. Yeah, I said. Fine. That was 4 days ago. For days I spent pretending like I didn't know. Smiling, nodding, letting her talk about groceries, the dog, our weekend plans. For days of studying her like a stranger. Listening for cracks in her voice. Looking for guilt in the way she stirred her coffee. But there was nothing. She wore her betrayal like perfume, invisible, but it lingered. I didn't want to confront her until I was ready. Until I could look her in the face and not fall apart. Until I could say what I needed to say. And not beg her to explain. So I waited. And today. Today was the day. We were having dinner. Just the two of us, like we always did on Fridays. She lit candles, poured wine. Played that stupid playlist she made when we first started dating. The one she called our forever soundtrack. I almost laughed when I heard it start playing. How ironic. Forever was starting to feel very temporary. She sat across from me. Fork in one hand, her phone in the other. Scrolling, smiling at something. I couldn't take it anymore. Texting Dylan. I asked. She froze. I slowly lifted. What? She said, with this little nervous laugh. That same fake laugh she used when she knocked over wine on our white couch. Why would you say that? I didn't blink. Because I saw your messages, I said. Flat. No yelling. Just the truth, like a knife left in the open. Her face drained. She set her fork down. Then the phone. Then both hands in her lap like a child caught stealing. I was going to tell you, she whispered. Were you? I asked. Before or after you slept with him again? She flinched. Eyes filling. But I didn't care. Her tears didn't mean anything to me anymore. They were just echoes of the lie she lived. I never meant for it to happen, she said. I didn't plan it, it just. Just what? I cut her off. You tripped and landed in his bed. She looked away. Don't do this, she said. But I kept going. I needed her to hear it. To feel even half of what I'd been carrying for 4 days straight. Do you know what it's like, I said, to watch the person you love smile at you while they're sleeping with your best friend? I didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered again. I was lonely, I felt. Felt what? I snapped. Neglected. Bored. You couldn't talk to me. She wiped at her face. Still couldn't look at me. And in that moment, I saw her clearly. Not as my wife. Not as the girl I married. But as a stranger who made 1,000 small choices that led to this table. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out the photo. It was printed, old school, because I wanted her to feel it. To touch the truth. I slid it across the table. She picked it up. Saw herself. Wrapped in Dylan's arms. On the bench near our old hiking trail. She gasped. "How did you?" "I followed you last Thursday," I said. Flat, like a closing door. I didn't say anything then, I just watched. I needed to see it with my own eyes. Needed to make sure I wasn't insane. Silence. Thick. Heavy. She looked at the photo like it was poison. Then looked back at me. "I swear, it was just once," she said, her voice shaking. It didn't mean anything. And that was it. That was the part that broke me. That stupid, careless sentence. It didn't mean anything. I stood up. Walked to the other side of the table. Leaned in, close enough that she could see what was coming. "Then neither did we," I said quietly. "Because I'm in love with someone else now, too." She blinked, stunned. "What?" I nodded slowly. "Her name's Claire," I said. "She works with me, she listens, she doesn't lie. And she's never once made me feel like I wasn't enough." I watched her chest rise, then fall. Eyes darting back and forth like she was trying to find some part of this that wasn't real. But it was. Every word. And then, just like that, she reached for her hand. Slid the ring off. And threw it. Hard. It landed near my feet with a sharp clink. She didn't say a word. Just stood. Walked out of the room. And left me staring at the spot where our marriage used to live. That's the moment I realized. Sometimes, the truth doesn't set you free. It just makes you strong enough to walk away. When the ring hit the floor, I didn't move. Didn't bend down to pick it up. Didn't say her name. I just stood there. Listening to the sound of her footsteps disappearing down the hallway. The front door opened. Then closed. And just like that, she was gone. No screaming. No begging. No final words. Just silence. I looked down at the floor. The ring rested near the leg of the chair. Still shining. Like nothing had changed. Like it wasn't a symbol of a broken promise. I poured myself a drink. Not because I wanted to forget. But because I wanted to feel everything. Let it burn on the way down. Let it remind me that I was still alive. That I hadn't died with the version of my life I thought I was living. She cheated. That's simple to say. But what people never talk about is everything that comes with it. It's not just betrayal. It's not just sex. It's every conversation you ever had suddenly turning into a lie. Every "I love you" echoing with a question mark. It's looking around the house and wondering what parts were real. And which ones she faked. I sat on the couch. The same couch we picked out together from that overpriced showroom. She said it was us. Said she could picture our future on it. Now I just saw the way her legs crossed while she texted another man. I don't even know how long I sat there. The house felt cold. Too big. Too empty. It used to be filled with laughter. Now it felt like a crime scene. My phone buzzed. It was her. A message. "I need time to think." I didn't answer. She already took time. Time to lie. Time to meet him. Time to kiss him and come back to me with that same mouth. Now she needed more. I stood up and walked to our bedroom. It still smelled like her. Lavender lotion, perfume. That faint scent of vanilla she always wore when she dressed up. I hated that I still noticed. Still missed her, even as I resented her. I opened the closet. Her clothes were still there. All of them. Neatly hung. Organized by color like she always did. I stared at her red dress. The one she wore to Dylan's birthday last year. The night they first started texting. Yeah, I checked the phone logs. I went back, pieced it together like a detective in my own damn marriage. That dress was the beginning. And I was too blind to see it. I pulled it off the hanger and threw it across the room. Then sank onto the bed. Buried my face in my hands. And let the weight finally fall. I didn't cry. But it wasn't far off. It was that kind of pain that sits in your chest like a scream stuck in your throat. Tight, silent, suffocating. You want to scream. You want to destroy something. But instead, you just breathe. Because what else is there to do? You keep breathing. Even when it hurts. I thought about Dylan. His face. His voice. How many times he sat at this very table. Laughing, telling stories. Drinking my beer. Looking me in the eye. All while stealing my wife. How long had it been going on? 6 months. A year. Long enough that she said, I think I've always been yours. That's not a fling. That's not a mistake. That's love. Or at least, something that's not supposed to live inside a married woman. I felt sick. Physically sick. Like my stomach turned to ice and my spine was shivering from the inside. I stood, went to the bathroom. Splashed cold water on my face. Stared at my reflection. I didn't recognize him. The man in the mirror. He looked older. Tired. Like he'd aged a decade in one night. Where was the guy who used to laugh without thinking? The one who trusted people without needing proof? Gone. Buried under guilt and suspicion and betrayal. My phone buzzed again. Another message from her. Can we talk tomorrow? Talk. I didn't even know where to begin. What do you say to the person who ripped your heart in half and handed you the pieces like an apology? I didn't reply. Instead, I opened another message thread. Claire. Yes, Claire is real. No, I hadn't actually been with her. Not physically. But the truth is, Claire was the first person in a long time who made me feel seen. We met at work. Nothing happened, just long conversations, shared lunches. The kind of thing that starts innocent but starts to linger in your mind. I never crossed the line. But when I told my wife about Claire tonight, I didn't lie. I just told her the version of the truth I needed her to feel. The pain. The loss. The betrayal. Even if it wasn't all literal. Emotionally. It was real. I scrolled through my messages with Claire. Her words felt kind. Steady. She didn't know what had happened yet. And I wasn't sure I wanted her to. Not yet. Not until I figured out who I was without my wife. Without Dylan. Without the life I thought I had. I lay back on the bed. The pillow still smelled like her shampoo. I hated that. I hated how much of her still lived in this place. In my skin. In my memories. In the sound of the damn wind chime she hung on the porch. I reached for the nightstand drawer. Opened it. Pulled out the envelope I had hidden weeks ago. The one with the plane tickets. Paris, our 10-year anniversary plan. We were supposed to leave next month. I stared at the date. Then slowly tore the tickets in half. One by one. Until they were nothing but strips of lost intentions. She said she needed time to think. But so did I. And for once, I was going to think about me. Not her. Not us. Just me. The men who gave everything and got stabbed in the back with it. Maybe that's the part they never show in the movies. The part after the betrayal. When the dust is still thick. And all you can do is sit in the wreckage and wait for clarity. Maybe healing doesn't come in answers. Maybe it comes in silence. In walking through the fire without screaming. In standing back up even when your knees shake. Tomorrow. She'll want to talk. And I'll let her. But this time. She won't be talking to the same man she married. He's gone. And what's left of me is still deciding who I'm going to become. The next morning. I woke up before the sun. Didn't sleep much. Didn't really need to. It's strange what your body does when your heart's been shattered. Like it forgets how to rest. How to feel safe. I made coffee out of habit. Didn't taste it. Didn't want it. But the sound, the smell, it gave me something to do while the hours crawled toward her arrival. I hadn't answered her messages. She sent 3 more before sunrise. Each one shorter. Less confident. Like she could feel me slipping. And maybe I was. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 o'clock. She was always punctual. Even now. Even after all this. I opened the door. And there she was. Hair tied up, no makeup. Wearing one of those big sweaters she always wore on Sundays. She looked small. Smaller than I remembered. "Hey," she said softly. Like it was any other day. Like we weren't standing on the remains of a ruined marriage. I nodded, stepped aside. Let her in. Out of habit. Still polite. Still me. She walked in slowly. Looked around. Her eyes landed on the ring. Still on the floor where she threw it. She didn't pick it up. Neither did I. She sat on the edge of the couch. Crossed her legs. Held her hands together like she was in a job interview. And maybe she was. Trying to interview for the role of someone who still belonged in this house. "I don't know where to start," she said. I stayed standing. That was intentional. She could sit. She could be vulnerable. But I wouldn't give her that again. Not yet. She looked up at me. Eyes glassy. "I didn't mean for this to happen." "Of course not. They never do. It's always some story about how things just spiraled. Fell into place. As if her clothes just took themselves off and fell into someone else's bed." "Was it love?" I asked. My voice came out calmer than I expected. But it had a sharp edge. Like a knife wrapped in velvet. She hesitated. That hesitation was louder than any word she could have said. And then finally. Yes. There it was. Not a mistake. Not a moment of weakness. Love. "So," I said. "Tell me. What did he give you that I didn't?" She blinked. Caught off guard. That question wasn't in her script. "He listened," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "He made me feel like I mattered again. Like I wasn't invisible." I laughed. Not because it was funny. But because of how absurd it felt. "You weren't invisible," I said. "You were everything. I worked late so we could have that house, that car, the trips you posted all over Instagram. And you think I didn't see you?" "I know," she said quickly, "I know you did those things. But I needed more than things. I needed you." She stood up now. Walked toward me. "Can we fix this? Please. I don't want to lose you." Tears were starting to come now. Real or not, I couldn't tell anymore. "You already lost me," I said. Soft, quiet. But true. "I was gone the moment I found out you made him your secret." She covered her face with her hands. "I hate myself for it." "Good," I said, "so do I." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick. Filled with everything we weren't saying. Everything that no apology could touch. Then I said it. The thing I'd been holding. Not to hurt her. But to show her. What she really did. "I thought about cheating on you too." She looked up sharply. Eyes wide. "What?" "With Claire," I said. Her name hit the room like a slap. Her whole body tensed. "You said that last night but..." "I wasn't lying," I said, "I didn't sleep with her. But I thought about it. More than once." She stared at me. Broken. Confused. And then the reality started to sink in. "You wanted to hurt me back," she said. "No," I said. "I wanted to feel like I mattered to someone again." And that's when she truly broke. Her knees buckled a little as she sat back down. Now we were equal. Now she saw the mirror I was holding up. I never thought. She shook her head. That you could feel the same way. That's the problem, I said. You never thought I felt anything. Only what you needed from me. You didn't even ask. We were quiet again. Until she said, "What happens now?" I looked at her. At the woman I once loved more than anything. The woman who shared my bed. My dreams. My future. I don't know yet, I said. But I know I can't forget this. She nodded slowly. Then glanced at the floor again. At the ring still lying there. "Do you want me to take it?" she asked. "No," I said. "Leave it. Because that ring doesn't belong on any finger anymore. It belongs right where it landed. Between truth and betrayal. Between what we were. And what we'll never be again." She wiped her eyes. Tried to steady her breath. Then said something I didn't expect. "I hope you forgive me someday." I didn't respond. Because I didn't know if I ever could. Forgiveness doesn't come like a gift. It comes like erosion. Slow, painful, uncertain. And sometimes it never comes at all. She stood. Walked toward the door. Paused before opening it. Looked back at me. "I really did love you." I didn't say it back. But part of me wanted to. Because part of me still did. And that might have been the most painful truth of all. Then she left. The door clicked shut behind her. And I was alone again. But this time, it felt like the beginning of something. Not the end. After she left, I didn't move. Not for a long time. I stood in the living room, staring at the front door. As if it might open again. As if she might come back and say, it was all a mistake. But she didn't. All that was left was silence. The kind that stretches across your chest and makes it hard to breathe. The kind that makes a man feel like a ghost in his own home. I walked to the kitchen. Poured myself another cup of cold coffee. Still didn't drink it. Just held it. Like something warm in my hands would somehow warm the inside of me too. I sat at the table. Looked around the room. And it hit me. She was everywhere. That stupid little ceramic spoon rest she bought at a flea market in Vermont. The wine glasses we never used but kept for guests. The stack of magazines she swore she was going to read someday. Her handwriting on the grocery list on the fridge. All of it. All of her. Still here. Except now it all felt like an exhibit. Like I was sitting in a museum of a life that no longer belonged to me. I pressed my hands to my face. Tried to slow my thoughts. But they came anyway. Loud and fast. Memories. Good ones. Which somehow hurt the most. Like that night she surprised me with tickets to a concert I'd mentioned once. Or the morning she danced barefoot in the kitchen to an old Motown song. Her hair messy. Wearing one of my shirts. Laughing without looking at me. Just lost in the moment. And I remember thinking. This is it. This is the woman I'll grow old with. But I didn't grow old with her. I grew apart from her. And maybe that's worse. My phone buzzed. I didn't check it at first. Just assumed it was another automated message or some work thing. But it buzzed again. Then again. 3 texts in a row. And something about that rhythm made me curious. I turned the phone over. Looked at the screen. And froze. It was from him. Tyler. Hey man. Can we talk? I never meant for it to happen like this. Please. I owe you the truth. I stared at his name. My thumb hovering over the screen. And for a moment. I wasn't angry. I was just empty. This man used to sit at my dinner table. We watched games together. Took trips. Laughed over beer and bad jokes. He was the friend I never thought I'd have to question. And now he was this. But the worst part? I wasn't even surprised anymore. I'd already burned through shock. Through rage. Now I was just standing in the ashes. I didn't reply. Not yet. Instead, I scrolled through old photos. The three of us at that lake house. All smiles. All lies. I closed the app. Threw the phone on the couch. Then walked to the bedroom. And just stood there. Looking at the bed we used to share. How many nights had I reached for her in the dark? How many mornings had we lain side by side? Pretending everything was fine. When it was already cracking beneath us. I sat on the edge. My fingers digging into the mattress. As if I could press down hard enough to push the memories out of it. But that's not how memory works. It clings. It soaks in. It waits. I leaned back. Closed my eyes. And for a moment, I didn't want to be strong anymore. Didn't want to be the guy who holds it together. Who keeps his voice calm. Who says the right things. I wanted to scream. To break something. To cry like a child. But I didn't. Instead, I whispered something I hadn't said in years. Something simple. But real. I miss you. And I didn't even know who I was saying it to. To her? To the version of me that used to believe in forever. Maybe both. A couple hours passed. I don't know how. Time didn't make sense anymore. I got up. Started gathering her things. Not out of spite. But because I couldn't breathe with all of her still here. I folded her sweaters. Put her shoes by the door. Collected her books. Each one felt like a tiny goodbye. But I kept doing it. Because there's a kind of peace in doing something. Even when your world is falling apart. Then my phone buzzed again. One more message from him. If you don't want to talk, I understand. But I'm sorry. Really. I stared at those words. And something inside me cracked. Not out of forgiveness. But out of finality. Because now I knew. This wasn't just about betrayal. It was about who I was going to be after this. I typed one sentence back. Not to comfort him. Not to start a dialogue. But to end one. You don't get to be sorry after you sleep with your friend's wife. I hit send. Put the phone down. And finally let the silence be silence. Because sometimes, the only way to move forward is to stop trying to make sense of what broke you. And start building from the wreckage. And I didn't know what I was building yet. But I knew it wouldn't have either of them in it. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. No alarm. No plan. Just, awake. I lay in bed for a moment. Staring at the ceiling. Listening to the hum of silence. No footsteps in the hallway. No sound of the shower running. No smell of her perfume drifting in from the bathroom. It was like waking up in someone else's life. One I didn't recognize. And didn't ask for. I got dressed slowly. Grabbed an overnight bag. And left the house. I didn't even leave a note. There was no one left to read it anyway. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. Let the road decide for me. Until the highway signs pointed toward the one place I hadn't been in a while. My parents' house. They lived about 3 hours away. A quiet little place on the edge of a small town. Back where the air smelled like pine. And the neighbors still waved. I hadn't told them anything. Not yet. Not because I didn't trust them. But because saying it out loud felt like making it real. And I wasn't ready to make it real. But halfway through the drive. Somewhere between regret and exhaustion. I called my dad. Hey, I said. Trying to sound casual. Mind if I come by for the weekend? He didn't ask why. Didn't ask what was going on. Just said. Doors open. Like he always did. And somehow, that simple answer nearly broke me. When I got there, the sun was starting to set. That golden hour glow hitting the old porch just right. And for a second, it felt like nothing had changed. Like I was just a kid coming home after a long semester. But as soon as I stepped out of the car, Dad was already on the porch, hands in his pockets, looking at me like he'd been waiting his whole life for me to finally show up broken. "You look tired," he said. Which, coming from him, was code for something's wrong. I didn't argue. Didn't pretend. Just walked up the steps. And when he pulled me into a hug, I let it happen. First time in years I didn't resist that kind of comfort. We didn't talk much that night. Had dinner. Watched a little baseball. I think he could tell I wasn't ready yet. And he wasn't the type to push. He let silence do the talking. And sometimes, that's what I needed most. It wasn't until the next day, out on the porch with coffee, that the words started to come. I didn't plan a speech. Didn't rehearse. Just started. "She cheated," I said, staring at the trees. "Not him." Long pause. Then, "With who?" "Tyler." The word felt like poison. Even saying it, I could taste the bitterness. Dad let out a breath. Long and low. Then nodded. As if the betrayal made more sense when it came from someone close. "Hell of a thing," he muttered. Then, after a minute, he said something I wasn't expecting. "You know your mother left me once, right?" I turned. Stared at him. "What?" He nodded. "Long time ago. Before you were born. We were married just a couple years. She ran off with some guy from her office. Didn't even tell me, left a note. Took off to Florida with him." My jaw was half open. I had never heard that story in my life. "But you're still together," I said, trying to make sense of it. "You forgave her?" He shook his head slowly. "No. She came back." I let her explain. "We rebuilt." But it wasn't forgiveness. Not really. It was choice. It was looking at the wreckage and deciding to build something new with the same person. I stared at him, trying to reconcile this version of my parents with the people I thought I knew. "Did it ever feel the same?" I asked. "No," he said simply. "It felt different. Sometimes better, sometimes worse. But real. That's the only reason I stayed. Because it stopped being about the lie, and started being about what came after." I leaned back in my chair. Let those words settle. I didn't know if I could do what he did. Didn't know if I wanted to. But for the first time, I understood that betrayal doesn't always have a clear ending. Sometimes it's just the start of a new version of you. Whether they stay or not. Later that day, I found myself walking the woods behind their property. The same trail I used to hike as a kid. Kicking leaves. Throwing rocks into the creek. Trying to think without thinking too hard. And somewhere in those quiet trees, I finally asked myself the question I'd been avoiding. Not, why did she do it? Not, was I not enough? But, what do I want now? Not revenge. Not closure. But something real. Something I could hold on to. Even if it was just the truth of who I'd become through all this. When I got back, I checked my phone. There were no new messages from her. No calls. Just silence. And for once, it didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like space. Space to decide who I was without her. Without the version of me that bent to hold our life together. That night, I sat with my dad again. And asked him something honest. What if I can't forgive her? Not even a little. He looked at me. Eyes tired but steady. And said, "Then don't. You don't owe her forgiveness. You only owe yourself the right to live without carrying her mistake like it was your burden." I think I finally slept that night. Really slept. Like my bones knew I was no longer trying to fix something broken. Just learning to live around the crack. And that's the thing they don't tell you about heartbreak. It doesn't get smaller. You just grow around it. And I was finally ready to grow. When I pulled into the driveway, everything looked exactly the same. The same porch light. The same flower pots she never watered. The same crooked mailbox I'd been meaning to fix. But I wasn't the same. I sat in the car for a long time. Engine off. Keys in my lap. Watching the front door like it might open on its own. Like maybe she was waiting. Like maybe she knew what was coming. She didn't. I finally got out. Grabbed my overnight bag. And walked inside. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that's too polite. Like it doesn't want to wake the guilt. Her shoes were by the door. That soft cardigan she always wore was draped over the arm of the couch. And on the kitchen table. My favorite coffee mug. Washed and set out like a peace offering. She heard me come in. Because a second later. She appeared in the hallway. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Eyes red. She looked like a question mark. And I was already the answer. "Hey," she said softly. Like maybe we were still that version of us. The one that solved things with soft voices and long hugs. I didn't say anything. Just nodded. Set my bag down. And leaned against the counter. I thought maybe. She started. But her voice caught. Maybe you needed space. I nodded again. This time slower. You were right, I said. And I found it. She took a cautious step closer. But I didn't move. I've been thinking, she said. Hands twisting nervously. I know what I did. I know there's no excuse. But if we could just talk, if I could explain. You don't need to explain, I interrupted. She froze. Eyes wide. Not with hope. But with confusion. I mean it, I continued. You don't need to explain why. Or how. Or when. I already know all of that. You made a choice. You chose someone else while still coming home to me. And that's not something I need to understand. It's something I just have to accept. She looked like I'd slapped her. But I didn't feel proud of it. Just tired. I was lonely, she whispered. I didn't think you even saw me anymore. I let that sit in the air between us. Then I said. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about you. Silence again. This time thick. Almost choking. I kept trying to be good, I said. My voice cracking for the first time. To be enough. To handle life. To handle work. To carry it all. Us. And I never asked you to notice. Because I thought love was supposed to be silent. But it turns out it was invisible too. She took a shaky breath. Tears welling again. But I wasn't looking at her for pity. I was looking at her for the truth. Tyler, I said suddenly. Her head snapped up. I want you to hear something from me that no one else is going to say out loud. You didn't fall into anything. You chose him. You lied. You hid it. You came home and kissed me after being with him. You wore two faces. And I didn't deserve that. She opened her mouth. But I held up a hand. No. Let me finish. Because this isn't just about you. It's about me. And I've been quiet for too long. She nodded slowly. Tears sliding down her cheeks. But I didn't feel sorry anymore. Just clear. I'm not here to scream, I said. I'm not here to fight. Or beg. Or even ask you why you did it. I'm here to tell you something you never expected. I took a deep breath. And let it all fall out. I don't love you anymore. Her eyes widened. Like I'd just pulled the ground from beneath her. I did, I said quietly. I loved you with everything I had. Even when things got quiet. Even when you drifted. Even when I didn't understand why it hurt just to look at you. But now. Now I feel like I've been standing in an empty room. Talking to a ghost. She stepped back. Like the words had weight. Real weight. And they'd hit her in the chest. I thought I was ready to forgive, I said. But I'm not. Because forgiveness would mean rebuilding something with someone I don't trust anymore. And I won't do that. Not to myself. Not again. She didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she reached for her ring. Slowly. Almost thoughtfully. I wore this every day, she said softly. Voice trembling. I used to look at it and feel safe. I didn't answer. Just watched. As she pulled it off her finger. I ruined everything, didn't I? I nodded once. It's not about what you ruined. It's about what you taught me. I gave everything to someone who didn't choose me back. And now I choose myself. She stood still. Ring in her hand. Like she didn't know what to do with it. Then she looked me straight in the eye. And said the last words I ever expected from her. You didn't deserve this. And I'll hate myself for it forever. Then she threw the ring. Not in anger. Not in fury. But with grief. Deep. Silent grief. It hit the floor with a dull sound. Spun for a second. Then stopped. Just like us. She walked past me. Slowly. Up the stairs. Without another word. And I just stood there. Ring on the floor. Heart in my throat. A house full of silence. But somehow. For the first time in weeks. I could breathe. The ring stayed on the floor for 3 days. Untouched. Like it had something to say. Something that still echoed through the silence of the house. I stepped around it. Like it might burn me if I touched it too soon. It was strange. How something so small could carry so much weight. So much truth. Tyler moved out the morning after. She didn't ask for anything. Didn't argue. Just packed 2 suitcases and a few boxes. And walked out without looking back. I watched her from the kitchen window. Her silhouette blurred by the glass. And when the car pulled away. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there. Hands flat on the counter. Heart heavy. But not broken. Not anymore. Because the truth is, I'd already done all the grieving. Long before she ever confessed. Long before I found the messages. The marriage had died slowly. Quietly. Without either of us calling time of death. Now I was just burying the remains. The first night alone was quiet. But it didn't feel empty. It felt like a beginning. Like a room finally aired out after years of stale breath. I made dinner for one. Ate at the table instead of the couch. Put on jazz like my dad used to play on Sundays. And for the first time in what felt like forever. I liked the silence. It wasn't loneliness. It was peace. That weekend, I took down all the framed photos. Every picture of us at the lake. Every vacation smile. Every staged Christmas card. Not in anger. Not out of spite. But because I didn't want a museum to a life that didn't exist anymore. I boxed them up. Taped the lid shut. And slid it into the back of the closet. Not erased. Just stored away. Because some memories aren't for forgetting. They're for learning from. On Monday, I went back to work. People looked at me like I was fragile. Like I might break if someone said the wrong thing. But I wasn't glass. I was steel that had been through the fire. Jason avoided me for a while. Coward that he is. But eventually. He reached out. A text. Simple. Stupid. Can we talk? I stared at the screen for a long time. Then typed. Tomorrow. 6 p.m. Bench at Riverview Park. The same park we used to hang out in as kids. Before life complicated the math. Before women and careers and choices tore lines between us. I got there first. Sat on the cold wooden bench. Hands in my jacket pockets. Watching the river roll by. Trying to decide what kind of man I wanted to be in that moment. He showed up 5 minutes late. Same nervous smile I used to trust. Same swagger that now made my stomach turn. Hey, he said. Like this was just another Tuesday. I didn't say anything. Just let the silence work on him. Eventually, he sat beside me. Hands rubbing together for warmth. I messed up, he started. Voice low. I know that. And I know you probably don't want to hear anything I have to say. You're right, I said. But you're going to say it anyway. He sighed. Looked out at the water. She told me it was over with you. That you were growing apart. I believed her. I let myself believe her. You wanted to believe her, I corrected. There's a difference. He nodded slowly. You're right. I was selfish, man. And not just with her. With our friendship. With everything. I trusted you, I said. My whole damn life. You were my brother in everything but blood. And you chose to sneak behind my back instead of telling me the truth. I was afraid, he whispered. And I laughed, a short, bitter sound. So was I said. But I didn't sleep with your wife. He flinched. But didn't argue. I'm sorry, he said again. Like it would fix the crater between us. I turned to him. Eyes sharp. Clear. I'm not here to forgive you, I said. I'm here to release you. Because carrying this. The anger. The betrayal. It's a weight I don't want anymore. I deserve to let it go. He looked stunned. Like that was the one thing he didn't expect. I don't wish you well, I added. But I don't wish you harm either. We're done, Jason. That chapter is closed. And then I stood up. Left him there. Bench and regrets and all. The next week, I took the ring. The one she threw. And walked to the nearest pawn shop. It was a strange thing. Handing over something that once held promises. Now just a band of gold with no meaning. Sentimental value, the clerk asked. No, I replied. Not anymore. The cash wasn't much. But I used it to buy something I hadn't touched in years. A guitar. I used to play back in college. Before life got too serious. Before the world demanded I grow up. Now I played every night. Not well. But with feeling. With freedom. And slowly. Bit by bit. The house became mine again. Not ours. Not hers. Just mine. I started painting the walls. Changing the curtains. Throwing out things that never felt like me. And with every change, I felt like I was reclaiming myself. One evening. Weeks later. I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just my name in her handwriting. Inside, a note. No apologies. No pleas. Just 5 words. Thank you for the truth. I read it once. Then again. And then I burned it. Not out of hate. But because I didn't need it. The past didn't belong in my pocket anymore. That night. I stood in the backyard. Guitar in hand. Stars overhead. Cool wind on my face. And I played. Not for her. Not for anyone. Just for me. I wasn't healed. Not fully. But I was whole. And that mattered more. Because sometimes, the real victory isn't in saving something broken. It's in having the courage to let it break. To walk away. To start again. And I had. I had finally let her go. And somehow, in the letting go, I found myself.